Hey crew, it's Bit, and I am back with some more ancient lore. Today we are diving back into the works of Dante Alighiero. This is Purgatorio. We are coming up on the halfway mark of the trilogy, I think. We'll be doing 9 through 15 today. I will read aloud. We will discuss afterwards as necessary. This appears to be a little bit more than common knowledge. If you don't know what that means, you should definitely go back and check out at least the last video, but you can start at the beginning. It's a good place to start. We will read and discuss as we go along. All the links are in the corner up here and down below, including the original reference material. Let's dive into Purgatorio, Canto 9. The concubine of old Tithonus now gleamed white upon the eastern balcony. Forth from the arms of her sweet paramour, with gems her forehead all relucent was, set in the shape of that cold animal which with its tail doth smite amain the nations. And of the steps with which she mounts the night, had taken two in that place where we were, and now the third was bending down its wings. When I, who something had of Adam in me, vanquished by sleep, upon the grass reclined, there were all five of us already sat. Just at the hour when her sad lay begins, the little swallow, near unto the morning, perchance in memory of her former woes. And when the mind of man, a wanderer, more from the flesh and less by thought imprisoned, almost prophetic in its visions is, in dreams it seemed to me I saw suspended an eagle in the sky with plumes of gold, with wings wide open and intent to stoop. And this, it seemed to me, was where had been by Ganymede his kith and kin abandoned, when to the high consistory he was rapt. I thought within myself, perchance he strikes from habit only here, and from elsewhere disdains to bear up any in his feet. Then, wheeling somewhat more, it seemed to me terrible as the lightning he descended, and snatched me upward, even to the fire. Therein it seemed that he and I were burning, and the imagined fire did scorch me so, that of necessity my sleep was broken. Not otherwise Achilles started up, around him turning his awakened eyes, and knowing not the place in which he was. What time from Chiron stealthily his mother carried him sleeping in her arm to Sycharos, wherefrom the Greeks withdrew him afterwards. Then I upstarted, when from off my face sleep fled away, and pallid I became, as doth the man who freezes with affright. Only my comforter was at my side, and now the sun was more than 2 hours high, and turned towards the seashore was my face. Be not intimidated, said my lord, be reassured, for all is well with us. Do not restrain, but I did not transfer this. I am sorry, y'all. Do not restrain, but put forth all thy strength. Thou hast at length arrived at purgatory. See there the cliff that closes it around. See there the entrance where it seems disjoined. Will home at dawn, which doth precede the day when inwardly thy spirit was asleep, upon the flowers that deck the land below. There came a lady and said, I am Lucia. Let me take this one up who is asleep, so will I make his journey easier for him. Sordello and the other noble shapes remained. She shook thee, and as day grew bright, upward she came, and I upon her footsteps. She laid thee here, and first her beauteous eyes that open entrance pointed out to me. Then she and sleep together went away, in guise of one of those whose doubts are reassured, and who to confidence his fear doth change, and after the truth has been discovered to him. So did I change, and when without disquiet my leader saw me up along the cliff, he moved, and I behind him, toward the height. Reader, thou seest well how I exalt my theme, and therefore if with greater art I fortify it, marvel not thereat. Never approached we, and were in such a place that there, where first appeared to me a rift like a crevice that disparts a wall, I saw a portal and 3 stairs beneath, diverse in color, to go up to it, and a gatekeeper who spake no word. And as I opened more and more mine eyes, I saw him seated on the highest stair, such in the face that I endured it not. And in his hand he had a naked sword, which so reflected back the sunbeams towards us, that oft in vain I lifted up mine eyes. Tell it from where you are. What is it you wish? Began he to exclaim. Where is the escort? Take heed your coming hither harm you not. A lady of heaven with these things conversant, my master answered him, but even now said to us, thither go, there is the portal, and may she speed your footsteps in all that is good. Again began the courteous janitor. Come forward then unto these stairs of ours. Thither did we approach, and the first stair was marble, white, so polished and so smooth I mirrored myself therein as I appeared. The second, a tint of deeper hue than purse, was of calcined and uneven stone, cracked all asunder, lengthwise and across. The third, that uppermost, rest massively. Porphyry seemed to me as flaming red, as blood from a vein is spurting forth. Both of his feet were holding upon this the angel of God, upon the threshold seated, which seemed to me of a stone of diamond. Along the 3 stairs upward with good will did my conductor draw me, saying, Ask humbly that he the fastening may undo. Devoutly at the holy feet I cast me, for mercy's sake besought that he would open, but first upon my breast 3 times I smote. 7 P's upon my forehead he described, with the sword's point, and take heed that thou wash these wounds when thou shalt be with him, he said. Ashes, or earth that dry is excavated, of the same color were with his attire, and from beneath it he drew forth 2 keys. One was of gold, and the other was of silver. First with the white, and after with the yellow, plied he the door, so that I was content. Whenever faileth either of these keys, so that it turn not rightly in the lock, he said to us, this entrance doth not open. More precious one is, but the other needs more art and intellect ere it unlock, for it is that which doth the knot unloose. From Peter I have them, and he bade me err, rather in opening than in keeping shut, but if people fall down before my feet. Then push the portals of the sacred door, exclaiming, Enter, but I give you warning that forth returns whoever looks behind. And when upon their hinges were turned around, the swivels of that consecrated gate, which are of metal, massive and sonorous, roared not so loud nor so discordant seemed Therapia, when was ta'en from it the good. Metellus before meagre it remained, and at the first thunder peal I turned attentive, and Te Deum Laudamus seemed to hear, in voices mingled with sweet melody. Exactly such an image rendered me that which I heard, as we are wont to catch, when people singing with the organ stand. For now we hear and now hear not the words. Okay, and so, I'm sorry about that, forgetting to transition. I don't know what happened there. It happens sometimes. This was interesting because this is the beginning of the start of the rest of the journey, right? They made it halfway, had to rest for the night, and part of that is this dark night of the soul, right? That is what is being portrayed here, right? You go through and you reflect on the hesitations that you have, and then you start making the progress, and then you get to the point where you have to rest, and that is, generally speaking, when you get about halfway through the stack. So it is accurate in that. And then you have to take assessment of the darkness. You have to burn away the darkness, and you do that through penitence and through various different things. There's a whole litany of things that you have to get rid of, and there's a way, like an equal list of things to do so. We cannot get tied down into the details of that today. But this is definitely describing that process, right? That is consciously going ahead of the guide, consciously taking the risk upon yourself, and doing so in humbleness, right? That is also demonstrated here when he cast himself at the feet, right? And then the gates were opened by that, right? You've got the gold and the silver key, and the gold key is the worldly things, but the silver key is the ethereal things. It is the things of the spirit and the humbleness and all of the vices, right? It is the balance between the two keys, and this is a very good explanation of the top part, because the bottom part, a lot of people can deal with the bottom part, but once you start getting into the upper parts of the stack, those are harder parts to deal with. They take more responsibility. It takes actual effort to do. Everybody can exist, right? Everybody lives on that level of existence easily. Everybody lives on the level of reproduction easily. Everybody lives on the level of sustenance fairly easily. Most people live in the area of the heart optimally, right? That is, the top level for most knowledge is around the heart when you learn to love, right? They don't get to the parts of creating the manifestation to the torrent of your voice, or the envisioning the future as you look through your third eye, or receiving the divine knowledge through your crown from the divine. They don't ever deal with that, and that is fine for most people. Most people never progress past that, and that is perfectly okay. Other people, however, make the intentional choice to do the dark shadow work and burn through the darkness of the night. That is literally the figurative here, in my estimation. So, again, we seem to be on the Enlightenment journey. This does not seem to be Catholic doctrine, but it does fit fairly well with some of the things that I believe. That can be confirmation bias. I am fully aware of that, and I try to account for that as we go along. Purgatorio, Canto 10. When we had crossed the threshold of the door, which the perverted love of souls disuses, because it makes the crooked way seem straight, re-echoing, I heard it closed again, and if I had turned back mine eyes upon it, what for my failing had been fit excuse? We mounted upward through rifted rock, which undulated to this side and that, even as a wave receding and advancing. Here it behooves us use a little art, began my leader, to adapt ourselves, now here, now there, to the receding side. And this our footsteps so infrequent made, that sooner had the moon's decreasing disk regained its bed to sink again to rest, than we were forth from out of that needle's eye. But when we, free and in the open were, there where the mountain backward piles itself, I wearied out, and both of us uncertain about our way, we stopped upon a plain, more desolate than roads across the deserts, from where its margins border on the void. To foot of the high bank that ever rises, a human body, 3 times told, would measure, as far as eye of mine could wing its flight, now on the left and on the right flank now, the same this cornice did appear to me. Thereon our feet had not been moved as yet, when I perceived the embankment round about which all right of ascent had interdicted, to be of marble white, and so adorned with sculptures that not only Polycletius, but nature's self had there been put to shame. The angel, who came down to earth with tidings of peace that had been wept for many a year, and opened heaven from its long interdict. In front of us appeared so truthfully there, sculptured in gracious attitude. He did not seem an image that is silent. One would have sworn that he was saying Ave, for she was there in effigy portrayed, who turned the key to ope the exalted love. And in her mien this language had impressed, esse ancilla Dei, as distinctly as any figure stamps itself in wax. Keep not thy mind upon one place alone, the gentle master said, who had me standing upon that side where people have their hearts, whereat I moved mine eyes, and I beheld, in rear of Mary, and upon that side where he was standing who conducted me, another story on the rock imposed, wherefore I passed Virgilius, and drew near, so that before mine eyes it might be set. There, sculptured in the selfsame marble, were the cart and oxen, drawing the holy ark, wherefore one dreads an office not appointed. People appeared in front, and all of them, in 7 choirs divided, of 2 senses, made one say no, and the other yes, they sing. Likewise, unto the smoke of the frankincense which was imaged forth, the eyes and nose were in the yes and no discordant made. Proceeded there the vessel Benedict, dancing with girded loins, and the humble psalmist, and more or less than king was he in this. Opposite, represented at the window of a great palace, Michael looked at him even as a woman, scornful and afflicted. I moved my feet from where I had been standing to examine near at hand another story, which after Michael glimmered white upon me. There the high glory of the Roman prince was chronicled, whose great beneficence moved Gregory to his great victory. 'Tis of the Emperor Trajan I am speaking, and a poor widow at his bridal stood, in attitude of weeping and of grief. Around about him seemed it thronged and full of cavaliers, and the eagles in the gold above them visibly in the wind were moving. The wretched woman in the midst of these seemed to be saying, "Give me vengeance, Lord, for my dear son, for whom my heart is breaking." And he to answer her, "Now, wait until I shall return." And she, "My Lord," like one in grief, in whom grief is impatient, shouldst thou not return? And he, "Who shall be where I am, will give it to thee." And she, "Good deed of others, what boots it thee, if thou neglect thine own?" Whence he, "Now comfort thee, for it behooves me that I discharge my duty ere I move. Justice so wills, and pity doth retain me." He who on no new thing has ever looked was the creator of this visible language, novel to us, for here it is not found. While I delighted me in contemplating the images of such humility, and dear to look on for their Maker's sake. Behold, on this side, but rare they make their steps, the poet murmured. Many people will direct us to the lofty stairs. Mine eyes, that in beholding were intent to see new things, of which they curious are, in turning round towards him were not slow. But still I wish not, reader, thou shouldst swerve from thy good purposes, because thou hearest how God ordaineth that the debt be paid. Attend not to the fashion of the torment. Think of what follows. Think that at the worst it cannot reach beyond the mighty sentence. Master, began I, that which I behold moving towards us seems to me not persons, and what I know not, so in sight I waver. And he to me, the grievous quality of this their torment bows them so to earth, that mine own eyes at first contended with it. But look there fixedly, and disentangle by sight what cometh underneath the stones. Already canst thou see how each is stricken. O ye proud Christians, wretched, weary ones, who, in the vision of the mind infirm, confidence have in your backsliding steps. Do you not comprehend that we are worms, born to bring forth the angelic butterfly, that flieth unto judgment without screen? Why floats aloft your spirit high in air, like are ye unto insects, undeveloped, even as the worm in whom formation fails? As to sustain a ceiling or a roof, in place of corbel, oftentimes a figure is seen to join its knees unto its breast, which makes of the unreal real anguish. Arise in him who sees it, fashioned thus. Beheld I those, when I have taken good heed. True is it, they were more or less bent down, according as they more or less were laden. And he who had most patience in his looks, weeping did seem to say, I can no more. All right, and so ends Canto 10. And there wasn't a whole lot of meat to dig in there, right? This is the first segment of punishments on the surface, but it is also trying to drag your burdens farther than the heart. I know that sounds a little bit weird, right? I guess that's the best way to put it, but the burdens of the earth are not meant for the dominion of the spirit. So, like, trying to drag those things forward will laden you down to the point where enlightenment can't happen and you don't get the butterfly, which is the next step after the throat, right? So we're not quite into the throat yet, though. I have not seen yet the expression, so we will see how that comes about. Oh, we have not seen that part yet, so let's dive in and check out the next part. This is Purgatorio, Canto 11. Our Father, thou who dwellest in the heavens, not circumscribed, but from the greater love thou bearest to the first effects on high. Praised be thy name and thine omnipotence by every creature as befitting is to render thanks to thy sweet effluence. Here's the throat. Come unto us the peace of thy dominion, for unto it we cannot of ourselves, if it come not with all our intellect, even as thine own angels of their will make sacrifice to thee. Hosanna, singing. So may all men make sacrifice of theirs. Give unto this day our daily manna, withouten which, in this rough wilderness, backward goes he who toils most to advance. And even as we trespass we have suffered. Pardon in one another, pardon thou benignly, and regard not our desert. Our virtue, which is easily overcome, put not to proof with the old adversary, but thou from him who spurs it, so deliver. This last petition, verily, dear Lord, not for ourselves is made, who needs it not, but for their sake who have remained behind us. Thus, for themselves and us good furtherance, those shades imploring went beneath a weight like unto that of which we sometimes dream, unequally in anguish round, and weary all upon that foremost cornice, purging away the smoke stains of the world. If their good words are always said for us, what may not here be said and done for them by those who have a good root to their will? Well may we help them wash away the marks that hence they carried, so that clean and light they may ascend unto the starry wheels. Ha! So may pity and justice you disburden soon, that ye may have power to move the wing that shall uplift you after your desire. Show us on which hand towards the stairs the way is shortest, and if more than one passes, point us out that which least abruptly falls. For he who cometh with me through the burden of Adam's flesh wherewith he is invested, against his will is chary of this climbing. The words of theirs which they returned to those that he whom I was following had spoken, it would not manifest from whom they came. But it was said, to the right hand, come with us along the bank, and ye shall find a pass possible for living person to ascend. And were I not impeded by the stone which this proud neck of mine doth subjugate, whence I am forced to hold my visage down, him who still lives and does not name himself, would I regard, to see if I may know him, and make him piteous unto this burden. Elation was I, and born of a great Tuscan. Guglielmo Aldobrandeschi was my father. I know not if his name were ever with you. The ancient blood and deeds of gallantry of my progenitors so arrogant made me, that, thinking not upon the common mother, all men I held in scorn, to such extent I died therefore, as know the Sienese, and every child at Campagna, Campagnatico. I am Umberto, and not to me alone has pride done harm, but all my kith and kin has with it dragged into adversity. And here must I this burden bear for it till God be satisfied, since I did not among the living, here among the dead. Listening, I downward bent my countenance, as one of them, not this one who was speaking, twisted himself beneath the weights that cramps him, and looked at me and knew me and called out, keeping his eyes laboriously fixed on me, who all bowed down was going with him. Oh, I asked him, art thou not Oderisi, Agobio's honor, and honor of that art which in Paris is called illuminating? Brother, said he, the more laughing are the leaves, touched by the brush of Franco Bolognese, all his the honor now, and mine in part. In sooth, I had not been so courteous while I was living for the great desire of excellence on which my heart was bent. Here of such pride is paid the forfeiture. And yet I should not be here were it not that, having power to sin, I turned to God. O thou vainglory of the human powers, how little green upon thy summit lingers, if it not be followed by an age of grossness. In painting, Cimabue thought that he should hold the field now Giotto has the cry, so that the other's fame is growing dim. So has one Guido from the other taken the glory of our tongue, and he perchance is born, who from the nest shall chase them both. Naught is this mundane rumor but a breath of wind that comes now this way and now that, and changes name because it changes side. What fame shalt thou have more, if old peel off from thee thy flesh, than if thou hadst been dead, before thou left the Pau and the Dindi, ere pass 1,000 years, which is a shorter space to the etern than twinkling of an eye, unto the circle that in heaven wheels slowest. With him who takes so little of the road, in front of me all Tuscany resounded, and now he scarce is lisped of in Siena, where he was lord what time was overthrown the Florentine delirium, that superb was at that day as now 'tis prostitute. Your reputation is the color of grass, which comes and goes, and that discolors it, by which it issues green from out of the earth. And thy true speech, fills my heart with good humility, and great tumor thou assuages. But who is he of whom thou just now speakest? That is Provenzan Salvani, and he is here because he had presumed to bring Siena all into his hands. He has gone thus, and goeth without rest ever since he died. Such money renders back in payment he who is on the earth too daring. And if every spirit who awaits the verge of life before that he repent remains below there, and ascends not hither, unless such good orison shall him bestead, until as much time as he lived be past, how was the coming granted him in largesse? When he in greatest splendor lived, said he, freely upon the Campo of Siena, all shame being laid aside, he placed himself, and there, to draw his friend from the duress which in the prison house of Charles he suffered, he brought himself to tremble in each vein. I say no more, and know that I speak darkly, yet little time shall pass before thy neighbors will so demean themselves that thou canst gloss it. This action released him from those confines. And so we finally start making the transition from the heart to the throat. We begin by speaking aloud. A prayer of gratitude, a prayer of provision, a prayer of thanks. That's what that was. We started with that. We went through it. That is, if you don't know, that's the same prayer that Jesus spoke and reworded, but the same thing. But it is the act of speaking the faith that is the issue, right? Then we get examples of people held here who didn't. They spoke, but they didn't speak faithfully until the end of their lives. They held back their voice, and they kept them from going higher. we appear to be there. It's talking about the green, which is the heart, but it is leaving behind of the green now. It is rising into the voice, which is blue. We're going to see if they make a reference to blue. We had a little bit of that with Azure yesterday, but we'll see. Uh, I think that's everything we needed to talk about in that. This does still seem to be the ascension through the stack, like the way that I talk about it. So it is interesting to find it here. Purgatorio, Canto 12. Abreast, like oxen going in a yoke, I, with that heavy laden soul, went on as long as the sweet pedagogue permitted. But when he said, Leave him and onward pass, for here 'tis good that with the sail and oars, as much as may be, each push on his bark. Upright, as walking wills that I redressed my person, notwithstanding that my thoughts remained within me, downcast and abashed. I had moved on and followed willingly the footsteps of my master, and we both already showed how light of foot we were. When unto me he said, Cast down thine eyes, 'twere well for thee to alleviate the way to look upon the bed beneath thy feet, as that some memory may exist of them. Above the buried dead their tombs in earth bear sculptured on them what they were before. Whence often there we weep for them afresh from pricking of remembrance, which alone to the compassionate doth set its spur. So saw I there, but of a better semblance, in point of artifice with figures covered, whatever as pathways from the mount projects. I saw that one who was created noble, more than all the other creatures, come down from heaven, flaming with lightnings falling upon one side. I saw Briareus smitten by the dart, celestial, lying on the other side, heavy on the earth by mortal frost. I saw Thymbrius, Pallas saw, and Mars, still clad in armor, round about their father, gaze at the scattered members of the giants. I saw, at foot of his great labor, Nimrod, as if bewildered, looking at the people who had been proud with him in Sinanar. O Niobe, with what afflicted eyes thee I beheld upon the pathway traced between thy 7 and 7 children slain. O Saul, how fallen upon thy proper sword didst thou appear there lifeless in Gilboa, that fell thereafter neither rain nor dew. O mad Arachne, so I thee beheld, even then half spider, sad upon the shreds of fabric wrought in evil hour for thee. O Rehoboam, who no more seems to threaten thine image there, but full of consternation a chariot bears it off, and none pursues. Displayed moreover the adamantine pavement, how unto his own mother made Alcmaeon costly appear the luckless ornament. Displayed how his own sons did throw themselves upon Sennacherib within the temple, and how, he being dead, they left him there. Displayed the ruin and the cruel carnage that Tamiris wrought, when she to Cyrus said, Blood didst thou thirst for, and with blood I glut thee. Displayed how routed fled the Assyrians after the Holofernes had been slain, and likewise the remainder of that slaughter. I saw there Troy, in ashes and in caverns. O Ilion, thee, how abject and debased, displayed the image that is there discerned. Whoever of pencil master was or style, that could portray the shades and traits which there would cause each subtle genius to admire. Dead seemed the dead, the living seemed alive, better than I saw not who saw the truth, all that trod upon while bowed I went. Now wax ye proud, and on with looks uplifted, ye sons of Eve, bow not down your faces, so that ye may behold your evil ways. More of the mount by us was now encompassed, and far more spent the circuit of the sun than had the mind preoccupied imagined. When he, who ever watchful in advance was going on, began, Lift up thy head, 'tis no more time to go thus meditating. Lo, there an angel who is making haste to come towards us. Lo, returning from service on the day of the 6th handmaiden. With reverence thine acts and looks adorn, so that he may delight to speed us upward. Think that this day will never dawn again. I was familiar with his admonition, ever to lose no time, so on this theme he could not speak to me covertly. Towards us came the being beautiful, vested in white, and in his countenance such as appears the tremulous morning star. With arms he opened then his wings. Come, said he, near at hand, here are the steps, and easy from henceforth is the ascent. At this announcement few are they who come. O human creatures, born to soar aloft, why fall ye thus before a little wind? He led us to where the rock was cleft. There, smote upon my forehead with his wings, then a safe passage promised unto me, as on the right hand, to ascend the mount where seated is the church that lordeth it, over the well guided above Rubicante. The bold abruptness of the ascent is broken by stairways that were made there in the age, when still were safe the ledger and the stave. Even thus attempered is the bank which falls sheer downward from the second circle there, but on this side and that the high rock graze. As we were turning thitherward, our persons, beate pauperis spiritu, voices, sang in such wise that speech could not tell it not. Ah me, how different are these entrances from the infernal! For with the anthems here one enters, and below with wild laments. We now were hunting up the sacred stair, and it appeared to me by far more easy than on the plain it had appeared before. Whence I, my master, say, what heavy thing has been uplifted from me, so that hardly aught of fatigue is felt by me in walking? He answered, when the peas, which have remained still on thy face, almost obliterate, say shall wholly, as the first is, be erased. Thy feet will be so vanquished by goodwill that not alone they shall not feel fatigue, but urging up will be to them delight. Then did I even as they do who are going, with something on the head of them unknown, unless the signs of others make them doubt. Wherefore the hand to ascertain is helpful, and seeks and finds, and doth fulfill the office which cannot be accomplished by the sight. But with the fingers of the right hand spread, I found but 6 the letters that had carved upon my temples, he who bore the keys. Upon beholding which my leader smiled. Okay, and so ends Canto 12, and we get the journey to the third eye. Okay, we're there. We didn't get the color reference, which, okay, that's maybe a later edition. I don't know. It's not all that important, but it is a handy way of keeping track of things. And we got it in the bottom stack. We're not getting it in the top stack, and that might tell us something, but we got the visions, right? He passed through the speaking and into the part that can't be spoken. I've tried before to reveal and talk about the thing that I saw when I went. Everybody sees something a little bit different. It has to do with how you interpret things. Me, it was the creation of the universe. I watched it happen in detail. It was amazing, and it's not something that I can do on my own. I have aphantasia. My visualization process is completely different than other people's. I get that. I'm a 1% on that. But it is interesting to note that he is talking about seeing the visions through the history of creation. That, like, as he understood it, he saw it unfold, and then the burdens are gone. That is the experience, right? I can't relay that to you any clearer than that. When you have made the progress and you reach this point in the proper manner, like you can get there
ahead of time and it does you no good. When you get there, that's when it goes. That's when all of the other parts start falling away, the worries and the cares and things from down below. You really do get the big picture when you awaken the third eye. When that muscle is able to be flexed in the manner in which you can flex it, and it does the things in which it was created to do, and you see the things that you are meant to see, everything changes. And the burden is not there anymore. The goal becomes to become the goal, right? To to try in earnest to be that which you were created to be, fully and wholeheartedly, without the reservations of the doubts, the worries, and the other things that are weighing you down. This is a very good laying out of that.
All right. Purgatorio, Canto 13. We were upon the summit of the stairs, where, for the second time, is cut away the mountain, which, ascending, shrivereth all. There, in like manner, doth a cornice bind the hill all around about as does the first, save that its arc more suddenly is curved. Shade is there none, nor sculptures that appear. So seems the bank, and so the road seems smooth, but with the livid color of the stone. If to inquire we wait for people here, the poet said, I fear that peradventure too much delay our election have. Not many people make it that far on the path. Then, steadfast on the sun his eyes he fixed, made his right side the center of his motion, and turned the left part of himself about. O thou sweet light, with trust in whom I enter upon this novel journey, do thou lead us, said he, as one within here should be led. Thou warmest the world, thou shinest over it. If other reason prompt not otherwise, thy rays should evermore our leaders be. As much as here is counted for a mile, so much already there had we advanced, in little time, by dint of ready will. And towards us there we were heard to fly, albeit they were not visible, spirits, uttering unto love's table courteous invitations. The first voice that passed onward in its flight, Veniam non habent, said in accents loud, and went reiterating it behind us. And ere it wholly grew inaudible, because of distance, passed another, crying, I am Orestes, and it also stayed not. Oh, said I, Father, these, what voices are they? And even as I asked, behold, the third, saying, Love those from whom ye have had evil. That's the divine. And the good master said, This circle scourges the sin of envy, and on that account are drawn from love the lashes of the scourge. The bridle of another sound shall be. I think that thou wilt hear it, as I judge, before thou comest to the pass of pardon. But fix thine eyes athwart the air right steadfast, and people thou wilt see before us sitting, and each one close against the cliff is seated. Then wider than at my first my eyes I opened. I looked before me and saw shades with mantles, not from the color of the stone diverse. And we were a little farther onward. I heard a cry of, Mary, pray for us. A cry of Michael, Peter, and all the saints. I do not think there walketh still on earth a man so hard that he would not be pierced with pity at what afterward I saw. For when I had approached so near to them that manifest to me their acts became, drained was I at the eyes by heavy grief. Covered with sackcloth vile they seemed to me, and one sustained the other with his shoulder, and all of them were by the bank sustained. Thus do the blind, in want of livelihood, stand at the door of churches, asking alms, and one upon another leans his head, so that in others pity soon may rise, not only at the accent of their words, but at their aspect, which no less implores. And as unto the sun, as unto the blind the sun comes not, so to the shades of whom just now I spake, heaven's light will not be bounteous of itself. For all their lids in iron wire transpierces and sews them up, as to a sparhawk wild is done, because it will not stay quiet stay. To me it seemed in passing to do outrage, seeing the others without being seen, wherefore I turned me to my counsel sage. Well knew he what the mute one wished to say, and therefore waited not for my demand, but said, Speak, and be brief and to the point. I had Virgilius upon that side of the embankment from which one may fall, since by no border 'tis engarlanded. Upon the other side of me I had the shades devout, who, through their horrible scene, pressed out the tears that they bathed their cheeks. To them I turned me, and, O people, certain, began I, of beholding the high light which your desire has solely in its care, so may grace speedily dissolve the scum upon your consciences, that limpidly, through them descend the river of the mind. Tell me, for dear 'twill be to me and gracious, if any soul among you here is Latian, and 'twill perchance be good for him to hear it. O brother mine, each one is citizen of one true city, but thy meaning is, who may have lived in Italy, a pilgrim. My way of answer this I seemed to hear a little further on than where I stood, whereat I made myself still nearer heard. Among the rest I saw a shade that waited, in aspect, and should anyone ask how, its chin it lifted upward like a blind man. Spirit, I said, who stoopest to ascend, if thou art he who did reply to me, make thyself known to me by place or name. Cyanes was I, it replied, and with the others here recleanse my guilty life, weeping to him to lend himself to us. Sapient I was not, though I, Sapia, was called, and I was at another's harm, more happy far than at my own good fortune. And that thou mayest not think that I deceive thee, here if I was as foolish as I tell thee, the arc already of my years descending. My fellow citizens, near unto Calais, were joined in battle with their adversaries, and I was praying God for what he willed. Routed were they, and turned into the bitter passes of flight, and I, the chase beholding, a joy received unequally by all others, so that I lifted upward my bold face, crying to God, Henceforth I fear thee not, as did the little blackbird at the little sunshine. Peace I desired with God at the extreme of my existence, and as yet would not my debt have been by penitence discharged, had it not been that in remembrance held me Piotr Petagano in his holy prayers, who out of charity was grieved for me. But who art thou that into our conditions questioning goest, and hast thine eyes unbound, as I believe, and breathing dost discourse? Mine eyes, I said, will yet be here taken from me, but for a short space, for small is the offence committed by their being turned with envy. Far greater is the fear, wherein suspended my soul is, of the torment underneath, for even now the load down there weighs on me. And she to me, who led thee then among us up here, if to return below thou thinkest. And I, he who is with me and speaks not, and living am I, therefore ask of me, spirit elect, if thou wouldst have me move over yonder, yet my mortal feet for thee. Oh, this is such a novel thing to hear, she answered, that great sign it is that God loves thee. Therefore, with prayer of thine sometimes assist me, and I implore, by what thou most desirest, if ever thou treadest the soil of Tuscany, well with my kindred reinstate my fame. Then wilt thou see among that people vain, who hope in Talamorone, and will lose there more hope than in discovering the Diana. but there still more the admirals will lose. And so ends 13. Uh, right? Yeah. And so this seems to be getting into from the third eye into the crown. We have several references to the divine. We have references to taunting the divine, which is never a good idea. And we have references of not quite submitting to the divine, but instead looking for an intermediary. I'm going to let that sit on you for just a second about that intermediary. Okay, now, this does seem to be the fight, right? The continuing of the journey from the third eye into the crown, or into the crown, is going to involve you giving forgiveness. It is going to involve you praying for the people that you do not like. It is. And you're not going to like it. It will get to be a habit, and you will get to the point where you enjoy it, but it is definitely a thing that is being told to you right here. Again, this is very interesting. It's much better than hell was. Let's dig into Purgatorio, Canto 14. Who is this one that goes about our mountain? Or ever death has given him power of flight, and opes his eyes and shuts them at his will. I know not who, but know he's not alone. Ask him thyself, for thou art nearer to him, and gently, so that he may speak, accost him. Thus did two spirits, leaning towards each other, discourse about me there on the right hand. They held supine their faces to address me, and said the one, O soul, that fastened still within the body towards the heaven art going, for charity console us and declare, whence comest and who art thou? For thou makest us as much to marvel at this grace of thine as must a thing that never yet has been. And I, through midst of Tuscany there wanders a streamlet that is born in Falterona, and not 100 miles of course suffice it. From thereupon do I this body bring. To tell you who I am were speech in vain, because my name, as yet, makes no great noise. If well thy meaning I can penetrate with intellect of mine, then answered me he who first spake. Thou speakest of the Arno. And said the other to him, why concealed this one the appellation of that river, even as a man doth of things horrible? And thus the shade that questioned was of this himself acquitted. I know not, but truly 'tis fit the name of such a valley perish. For from its fountainhead, where is so pregnant the Alpine mountains, whence is cleft Peloro, that in few places that it marks surpasses, to where it yields itself in restoration of what the heaven doth of the sea dry up. Whence have the rivers that which goes with them? Virtue is like an enemy avoided by all, as is a serpent, through misfortune of place or through bad habit that impels them, on which account have so transformed their nature that dwellers in that miserable valley, it seems that Circe had them in her pasture. Mid ugly swine of acorns worthier than other food for human use created, it first directeth its impoverished way. Curs find it thereafter coming downward, more snarling from their puissance demands, and turns from them disdainfully its muzzle. It goes on falling, and the more it grows, the more it finds the dogs becoming wolves, this maledict and misadventurous ditch. Descended, then, through many a hollow gulf, it finds the foxes, so replete with fraud they fear no cunning that may master them. Nor will it cease because another hears me. And well 'twill be for him, if still he mind him of what a truthful spirit to me unravels. Thy grandson I behold, who doth become a hunter of those wolves upon the bank of the wild stream, and terrifies them all. He sells their flesh, it being yet alive. Thereafter slaughters them like ancient beeves. Many of life himself of praise deprives. Blood-stained, he issues from the dismal forest. He leaves it such. 1,000 years from now, in its primeval state 'tis not rewarded. As at the announcement of impending ills, the face of him who listens is disturbed, from whatever side the peril seize upon him, so beheld that other soul, which stood, turned round to listen, grow disturbed and sad, when it had gathered to itself the word. The speech of one and aspect of the other had me desirous made to know their names and question, mixed with prayers I made thereof. Whereat the spirit which first spake to me began again. Thou wishest I would bring me to do for thee what thou'lt not do for me. But since God willeth that in thee shine forth such grace of his, I'll not be chary with thee. Know then that I, Guido de Luca, am. My blood so within thee set on fire that if I had beheld a man make merry, thou wouldst have seen me sprinkled over with pallor. From my own sowing, such the straw I reap. O human race, why dost thou set thy heart where interdict of partnership must be? This is Rainier, this is the boast and honor of the house of Calboli, where no one since has made himself the heir of his desert. And not alone his blood is made devoid, twixt Po and the Mount and the seashore and the Reno, of good required for truth and for diversion. For all within these boundaries is full of venomous roots, so that too tardily by cultivation now would they diminish. Where is good Lizio and Arrigo Manardi, Pietro Versio and Guido del Carpegna, or O Romagnoli into bastards turned? When in Bologna will a Fabro rise? When in Faenza Abbadini de Fisco, the noble scion of ignoble seed? Be not astonished, Tuscan, if I weep when I remember with Guido de Prata Ugolin Diazo, who was living with us, Frederick Tignoso and his company, the house of Traversara, and the Anastagi, and one race and the other is extinct. The dames and cavaliers, the toils and ease that filled our soul with love and courtesy, there where the hearts have so malicious grown. O Bretinoro, why dost thou not flee, seeing that all thy family is gone, and many people not be corrupted? Magnifical does not well in begetting, and ill does Castro Caro and Conio worse, in taking trouble to beget such counts. Will do well the Pagani, when their devil shall have departed, but not therefore pure will remain of them ever remain, will testimony of them ever remain. O Ugolin de Fantoli, secure, thy name is, and since no longer is awaited, one who, degenerating, can obscure it. But go now, Tuscan, for it now delights me to weep far better than it does to speak, so much as our discourse my mind distressed. We were aware that those beloved souls heard us depart, therefore, by keeping silent, they made us our pathway confident. When we became alone by going onward, thunder, when it doth cleave the air, appearing a voice that counter to us came, exclaiming, Shall slay me whosoever findeth me, and fled as the reverberation dies, if suddenly the cloud asunder bursts. As soon as hearing had a truce from this, behold, another, with so great a crash that it resembled thunderings, following fast. I am Aglarius, who became a stone, and then, to press myself close to the poet, I, backward and not forward, took a step. Already on all sides the air was quiet, and he said to me, that was the hard curb that ought to hold a man within his bounds. But you take in the bait, so that the hook of the old adversary draws you to him, and hence availeth little curb or call. The heavens are calling you and wheel around you, displaying to you their eternal beauties, and still your eye is looking on the ground, whence he, who all discerns, chastises you. And so ends Canto 14. And that's going to be 6, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. That makes 6 for the day. This one, again, was more of a history lesson than anything else. I'm sure there is some wisdom in this, in that this appears to be several of the villains of the time, and that they are being held just from the point of enlightenment. They are all the way at the top, but they're not quite there, and that is an interesting thing. We will get more into the rest of these cantos as we go along. Hopefully, I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion. I got a feeling we're going to be getting into the divine into the next one, and that'll be interesting. Uh, Hopefully, I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat complicated topics. I know that I hold some unconventional views and that I have a tendency to step on toes when I talk about them, but it is not intentional. I do not apologize for it. I am here to say the things that I am here to say, and if you don't like it, it's okay. If you like what I'm doing here, let me know down below. If you don't, let me know down below. Hit me with a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. If you really like what I'm doing, throw me a super thanks. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. This has been Pitt State. Peace.